I just want to start off by saying that, if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course, but, most internships aren't. But it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would, crap themselves over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without giving too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity. It took them longer to start up the season, but the delay lasted for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the Series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and the two other interns were in the editing room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received a copy of what was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that it isn't final yet, animators often put up mock title cards, sort of inside joke for us, with phony, oftentimes lewd titles such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rockabye Bivalve, when SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, but, work-related chuckles. So when we saw the title card as Squidward Suicide, we didn't think it anything more than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as is normal. The story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet, hitting a few sour notes, like usual. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside, and Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says, "Okay," and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things begin to seem, off. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, the sound is synced up with animation. So, yes, that's not common. When he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happens, and there is a slight murmuring in the crowd as they begin to boo him. And not normal cartoon booing, oh no. That is common in the show, but you can very clear the malice in it. Squidward is in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shout goes out to the crowd, with SpongeBob in the center frame, and he too is booing. Very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing, though. What is odd is that everyone has hyper-realistic eyes, very detailed and clearly in shots of real people's eyes. But something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. The view out his porthole window is of a night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert, but, the unsettling part is that there is no sound. Literally no sound, not even feedback from the speakers. It's as if the speakers were turned off, or their status showed them working perfectly. He sat there, blinking in the silence for about 30 seconds. Then he started to sob softly. He put his hands, tentacles, over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute. All while the sound in the background was very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart, side by side. His sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt and anger. The screen twitches a bit, and it twists in on itself for a split second, then turning back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if the storm was brewing somewhere. The eerie part is the sound. It's Squidward sobbing. It sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes and the sound was coming from the other side. As good a sound as a studio likes to have, they don't purchase the equipment for it to sound that good. And below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted for more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched the show twice, so pardon me if things sound too specific, but I've had a lot of time to think about them. And after 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen, as if, a single frame was replaced. The lead editor paused and rewounded frame by frame, and what we saw, it was horrible. It was a photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. His face was mangled and bloodied, one eye dangling over up his upturned face. Popped. He was naked down to his underwear, his stomach crudely cut open, and his entrails laying beside him on pavement. It was probably a road. But the most unsettling part is that the shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence tags or markers, and the angles were completely off for shot designed to be evidence, so it would seem that the photographer was the one person responsible for the child's death. We were, of course, mortified, but we pressed on, hoping it was nothing more than a sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing louder than before, and half body and frame, there was now what appeared to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The blood was also done in a hyper-realistic style, looking as if you touched it, it would get blood on your fingers. The wind sound was now if it were a gale blowing through a forest. There were even snapping sounds of branches, then laughing, a deep baritone lasting longer at longer intervals and coming more frequently. And after about 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single photo. The editor was reluctant to go back, but we all were, but we knew we had to. The photo this time would appear to be of a little girl, no older than the first child. She was lying down in her stomach, her breath in a pool of blood next to her. Her left eye was too popped out and naked for the underpants, except for the underpants, but her entrails were piled on top of her above another crude cut along her back. Again, the body was on a street, and the photographer's shadow was very, very visible. And it was also in similar shape and size to the first. I had to choke back vomit, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed, and after about 5 seconds of this photo played, Squidward went silent, as did all sound. Like, it was watching this scene when it started. He put his tentacles down, and his eyes were now done in hyper-realism, like the others were in the beginning of the episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot, and pulsating. He stared at the screen as if watching the viewer, and after about 10 seconds he started sobbing again. But this time he didn't cover his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud, and the most fear-inducing of all was the sobbing mixed in with the screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind came back, and so did the deep-voiced laughing. At this time, the photo lasted for a good 5 frames. The animator was able to stop it on the 4th and backed up. This time, the photo was of a boy, about the same age, but this time the scene was different. The entrails were being pulled out from his stomach wound by a large hand. The right eye popped and dangling, blood trickling down it. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different, but we couldn't tell what. He went on to the next, and the same thing. He went back to the first and played them back quicker. and I lost it. I vomited on the floor. The animating and sound editors gasping at the scene. The 5 frames were not as if they were 5 different photos. They were played out as if they were frames from a video. We saw the hands slowly lift out the guts. The kid eyes focus on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kid beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He had to call in the creator to see this. Mr. Hellingberg arrived about 15 minutes. He was confused as to why he was called down there. So the editor continued the episode. Once the few full frames were shown, all screaming and sound again, Squidward was just staring at the viewer. Full frame of the face for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out and a deep voice said, "Do it!" And we see Squidward's hand on a shotgun. He immediately puts the gun in the mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatter the walls behind him. He flies back with a force. The last 5 seconds of the episode show his body on the bed, on his side, one eye dangling out. What's left of his head above the floor, staring blankly at it. And then the episode ends. Mr. Hillenberg is obviously angry at this. He demands to know what the hell was going on. Most people have left the room at this point, so it's just a handful of us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it in my mind, and causing me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory that we could think of was that the file was edited by somebody in the chain from the drawing studio to here, but the CTO was called to analyze what happened. The analysis of the photo showed that it was edited over by new material, but, however, it was only 24 seconds before we began viewing it. All equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware, as well as glitches, but there was nothing there. Everything checked out. We don't know what happened, and to this day, nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No child scene was identified, and no clues were gathered from the data, nor physical clues in the photos. I never believed in the unexplainable phenomena before, but now that I've had something happen to me, and I can't prove anything about it beyond anecdotal evidence, I think twice about things. And then